Hello, everybody. So, a little bit of technical difficulties, but apparently I am streaming on Facebook, so I don't have to do this half-assedly. So, that being said, let us get started. All right, I am live right now on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube here, and I'm also live right here on Instagram. So, my eyes are going to be a little back and forth here, but no worries. I am currently streaming standing up in my room. I did the earlier stream at 3. I was sitting down for that, but it was still daylight out, so the light actually was pretty good. So unfortunately, I'm standing now, but let's make this work, shall we? All right. So why am I here? Well, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Justin Bienvenue, and this is the book launch to celebrate the release of Gears and Gaslight. My first ever steampunk book. Now, first things first, I'll try not to move around. This is so annoying. Um, so here's the deal. I'm going to tell you what inspired me to write the book, and then I'm going to explain what the book is about, without, of course, giving anything away. So, if of course anybody wants to come in, which would be good, they can do that. So, without further ado, the let us let the festivities begin, shall we? This is a good spot for me. I'm still trying to get this one right. This one's all right. So I got my steampunk shirt on for this joyous occasion. Yes, yes. I look nice and crisp here. I look a little spotty here, even with the light in the background, and I got the tablet's under a light, and I'm still looking a little weird. But welcome. So the first thing you're probably wondering is, Justin, you write horror and poetry. What made you decide to write a steampunk novel? Well, that's where we start. So the first thing to know is I first came across steampunk back in 2015. Someone told me about it, and I was kind of interested in it, but not enough to like read one, and not enough to write one. So there you go. That's me in a nutshell right there. Um, but the other thing was, a couple years later, in 2018, I read my first steampunk book. Maybe it was 2017. I don't recall the year, 17 or 18. I read the Steampunk Omnibus by Michael Corlin, and it was an excellent book. And it was my first steampunk book that I'd ever read, and it was kind of the first step in which I realized that I wanted to write my very own steampunk book. But at the same time, well, maybe I wanted to write a steampunk story, but maybe not necessarily a book. So what I did was I put it in the back of my mind, on the back burner, if you will. And my hair is just so weird right now. I put it on the back burner, and I look so weird on this side, though. God, it's so annoying. There we go. I'll get this yet. Hold on, hold on. I gotta do this so it's not. Well, that's not gonna work. This is just absolutely screwy as all hell. Oh, something fell. Hold on. Bear with me. Hold up. Technical difficulties. Still having technical difficulties here. That's not gonna work. Alright. This isn't working at all. I don't know what to do. Hold on. One final idea. Alright. That looks even worse. And it's still dark over here. So this is not working out at all. Again, bear with me. Totally unprofessional, but what are you gonna do? Alright, so I'm streaming once again side to side. Not that anyone cares, not that anyone's watching. This video is probably going to be for nothing, so I'm just going to ramble. I'm going to ramble on about nonsense before I start talking about my book, because why bother talking about my book when no one's watching? Or maybe they are, and Vimeo is just not telling me. So if that's the case, I should probably start talking about my book. Alright. So, of Gears and Gaslight. Where did I leave off? Oh, my inspiration. So I just read Michael Corlin's The Steampunk Omnibus. I thought about writing my very own steampunk book, but at the same time, I wasn't quite satisfied yet. So I put it on the back burner. Wasn't gonna take a stab at writing one, so I didn't. I then read the Weird West Tales, a steampunk western by Michael Resnick. I read the first two. I actually just recently finished reading the third one last month. Excellent series. The third one's a little, yeah, I'm not a fan of the third one, but I'll read the fourth one. And then while I was reading that, that's when a couple years back, actually, I can't even talk. Unbelievable. After I read the first Weird West Tales, a steampunk western, which I believe was the Buntline special, then I was like, you know what? I want to write my own steampunk novel. I threw together a couple titles, and these titles pretty much became um, they became the idea that I wanted. But again, they were just titles. What they were going to be about, totally different. So I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm not even gonna lie. I hate this setup. I'm looking over here, and that means I'm looking over there. And then when I'm looking over here, I'm looking over there. It's just so bad. God, I hate this setup. Let me try this again. I'm actually gonna use the book. That's not gonna work. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, there we go. Will that work? That might work. Okay. So now I'm looking down. God, this is so bad. All right, back over here again. I don't even care if this is unprofessional. So, like I was saying, I was inspired to write the book after reading uh, Steampunk Omnibus and Weird West Tales, which is a steampunk western. And I also attended a steampunk festival a few years back, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed it. Um, it was in my it was in my town, and there was three places that they were holding events, and I hate this. We're gonna try one more thing, people. One more thing. Not that anyone's watching. Alright, so I'm back over here, but now you can't see me, so I don't like that at all. Alright, there we go. Okay, so I've moved once again. Now you can only see my head over here, but that's all you need to see. Okay, so 10 minutes in, and I've rambled on about nonsense. Nobody's watching, and okay. And I'm going to do this for another half an hour. Unbelievable. Alright, so I attended a steampunk festival a couple of years back, 2019 to be exact, and they had a couple of events. One was at the library. There's a lodge that's across from the library, and there's the park. That's three. And then, of course, you could actually take a trolley because you have to make it all steampunk. So that then meant that you could take the trolley to the Industrial Museum. And everywhere you could pick wherever you wanted to go, and they had um, an event that you could watch. And it was really fun. Like I had a really good time. People were dressed up. I was sort of dressed up, leather hat and glasses. Not exactly steampunk, but closest thing I could get. 2020, I was going to attend the other one, but you already know what happened. COVID happened. So when COVID happened, they canceled it. But they didn't actually cancel it. They just made it virtual. It wasn't as cool as going in person, but could you could still watch it on YouTube live as it was happening. So I did that, and then last year they were supposed to have it again, but wouldn't you know it, COVID again. So they were like, no, we're gonna wait until next year. So I'm really hoping this year they have the festival so I can go back and have another good time. And this time I'll actually have my very own steampunk book to talk about and maybe even show off. Who knows? All right, I'm moving around a lot. I apologize. I'm apologizing to nobody, but it's fine. So again, because I'm standing. So that's what inspired me to write my own steampunk novel. Three books that I had read in the Steampunk Festival. However, I didn't mention the third book, did I? The third book that I had read, I actually read this while I was writing the book, and that's Bone Shaker by Sherry Priest. I had heard this mentioned at the library during a steampunk event that I attended, and the book was brought up. And it was one of those books I'd seen it everywhere on Amazon, online, on BookBub. And finally, I decided after 3 years of hearing about this damn book, I'm gonna read it, and it was amazing. I loved it. It's book one of like seven, I believe. I haven't read the other six, but I plan to. And after this I used this book as research since I was already writing, but it really cemented the whole inspiration of me wanting to write a steampunk novel. So here we are, you know, a few years later, and I finally decided to write it. Now, before I get into the details of the book, you might be curious of the title and the nice, beautiful cover, which looks good. It doesn't look good on this side, though. Okay, here's a funny story. On Instagram, you guys are seeing this. It looks nice and crisp. You can see it. It looks amazing. People on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, it looks kind of dark. That's because it is dark. I'll make a long story short. I said this at 3 o'clock when I was doing this video as well. The book is currently available on Kindle. It is not available for paperback because I'm still currently having that fixed. I spent the last 3 months with Amazon trying to get the cover fixed. I had a proof copy printed out. It was too dark. I had another proof copy printed out, which is the one I just showed you. Too dark. The guy told me, I called the guy on Amazon. He said, change the DPI to 300. I did that, but apparently I need to do more than that. I need to change the dimensions and all that. So I told Amazon to help me fix it, and they said that they could. Two people told me from Amazon that the book was being worked on and fixed. Why would I why would I make that up? Why would I not do anything when I'm waiting around to hear from Amazon? So I finally called to check on the progress, and this guy tells me nobody's working on my book. They don't do that. Then why do those two guys lie to me, you know? Unbelievable. So here we are. My poor cover artist. I put the poor girl through hell. 5 times I've had her fix my book, and now a sixth time. I was afraid to go to her for a sixth time, but she's so nice and understanding that she's like, yeah, no, sure, no problem. I can fix it. So she's currently working on it now. I'm hoping that I will have a file to submit to Amazon tonight or tomorrow, most likely tomorrow. And even when I submit it, Amazon, when I submit it, I'm asking Amazon to look at the cover, print out burn a copy. I'm not ordering another proof copy of my book. So if they have the technology, or they can, even if they have to print out a book themselves, they're doing it. Because I am not hitting publish on that puppy until I know 100% that it's fixed. So yeah, that's the cover dilemma. But uh, but yeah. So let us talk now about the book itself. You know what inspired me to write it? But what is the book about? Again, I look better on Instagram right now than I look like a retard on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube right now. I don't know why, but yeah. So what is the what is of Gears and Gaslight about? Well, here we go. Okay, so of Gears and Gaslight, the title. So I like the idea of gaslight in steampunk. I apologize, something's going on in the other room. I like the concept. I like the word gaslight in steampunk. I like how it gets thrown around a lot. And my story, the first series, is about time, and I thought about gears. So gears, making sense, of Gears and Gaslight. It kind of just came to me. Most of my titles just come to me. If anybody knows anything about me with my writing, titles just sort of spawn themselves, and then I decide whether or not I'm going to make that into a book. So of Gears and Gaslight was born. So I came up with. It is worth noting I'm talking over myself, but again, no one's watching, so it doesn't really matter, Justin. Two steampunk series, six steam-filled stories. So two series are in this book. Each have three stories. So it's two series, three stories. So that's six stories. The first series is called Gears of Time. The second series is called Gaslight Abbey. They do not intertwine at any point. They're both totally separate steampunk series. So the first part of Gears and Gaslight is Gears of Time. And the first story in Gears of Time is called The Engineer's Watch. And The Engineer's Watch was actually a short story that I had published in an anthology a few years prior. And I got the rights reverted back to me, obviously, so that's why I was able to put it put it in a book. So The Engineer's Watch tells of an engineer, a train engineer named Gerald Elgin. And Gerald Elgin, one day he breaks his watch. Obviously, it's called the engineer's watch for a reason. So one day he breaks his watch. So one of his fellow engineers tells him he can take it to a place over in the next town and have it repaired. So he does. One day on his day off, he goes and has the watch repaired. And little does he know that by him having his watch fixed, it will change his life forever. So that's what gets us started. The second story is called a Ticking Clockwork, and this is the shop that Gerald Elgin goes to have his watch fixed. But of course, you already know that having his watch fixed will change his life forever. So what more could possibly take place in this shop? You'll have to read and find out. And finally, the last story is Secondhand Skies, and I'm just reading over so I can get a general idea, because not that I forgot, but you know, don't want to ramble and get confused. The last story in the Gears of Time series is called Secondhand Skies. And this is a story about Gerald, once again, and his wife, Mira. And they take a trip on an airship so that they can get a tour of the town that they're in, which is called Treadsville. And Treadsville is the place where Ticking Clockwork is. And Gerald has become so fascinated with the town that he wants to show his wife, like, let's go on an we're not going to get a better opportunity than this. Let's go on this airship and get a tour of Treadsville, which is the name of the town. So Secondhand Skies, that's what that's about. And that's the Gears of Time series. The second series in of Gears and Gaslight is called Gaslight Abbey. Cool title, right? I thought so. Not to toot my own horn. The first story in Gaslight Abbey is called Theophilus Archer and the Steampunk Nuns. If you ask me where the hell I came up with the title Theophilus Archer and the Steampunk Nuns, I wish I could tell you, but for the life of me, I don't know. One day, it just popped into my head. And I was like, you know what? As ridiculous as that is, I like it. Hey, Josie and the Pussycats exist, so why not Theophilus Archer and the Steampunk Nuns, right? Um, Theophilus Archer and the Steampunk Nuns is about a monk by the name of Theophilus Archer. And the bishop comes to him and says, the sacred scroll from the church, the monastery, if you will, has been stolen. And Theophilus Archer decides that he's going to play detective and go out and search for that scroll, because this scroll should not be seen by no other outsider eyes. But of course, the bishop declines and says, you can't, you're a monk, you're not a detective. But then he reminds the bishop that if he doesn't, if somebody's taken the scroll, that's outside eyes. Getting the authorities involved is only going to be more outsiders seeing the scroll or being involved with it. So he doesn't want that. So that's what the first story is about. Theophilus Archer playing detective to go out and find the scroll. However, he gets help from some nuns, but apparently the nuns are not ordinary. They are steampunk nuns. And you would find out exactly what that means when you read the book. The second story in Gaslight Abbey is called Steam Monks. And yes, it is a total pun on the word steampunk. I thought it was clever, and I went with it. Steam Monks again follows Theophilus Archer, but this time he recruits some monks, his fellow congregation, if you will, to assist him in another quest. Pretty straight to the point. And then finally, the third and final story in Gaslight Abbey, and the last story of Gears and Gaslight, is the Galvanic Bishop, which again puts Theophilus Archer along with his steampunk nuns and steam monks together. Everybody's together, and they're once again all on a quest together to help the monastery out. Now, another thing people probably are asking, because again, I'm not a mind reader, but I imagine people are like, why would you write a steampunk book about monks and nuns? How did that happen? Well, again, I can't tell you how this brain works. I thought of Theophilus Archer and the steampunk nuns. So I decided, but the whole steampunk nuns thing, the nuns kind of came before the monk part, if that makes sense, because I thought steampunk nuns sounds ridiculous. So Theophilus Archer, maybe that's a band name? Why would they be a band? A steampunk band? I don't know. Then I was like, I'll make him a monk. Monks are cool. So I decided to make him a monk because it was only fitting since he's working with nuns. So steam monks then, of course, just kind of fell into my lap and I thought of it. And then the Galvanic Bishop, Galvanism, of course, is a part of steampunk. And yeah, so that's all three stories in Gaslight Abbey and all three stories in Gears of Time, which make up, once again, the book of Gears and Gaslight. Again, I apologize for those watching on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, you're seeing the book as I'm seeing it, which is very dark. But people on Instagram are like, ooh, shiny. I'm hoping when the physical cover's done again, it'll be shiny both online and in paperback. All right, so it's 6:34. I have already talked about everything there is to talk about. But I did this last time too, so lucky for me, I still have time to fill. So, I've told you what inspired me to write the book. I've told you what the book is about. And now we're going to take a little bit, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the cover, the issues with this cover, and then we're going to go a little bit inside the book and get a little inspiration there. So, the first thing is the cover. Like I said, you can't really see it, but it's dark all right there. So that's what's getting fixed. Also, my name's right here. That used to be right here. And on the back, the text used to start here. And then also, if you notice, it actually hits the barcode, sorry. It actually hits the barcode right here. So if that's getting fixed, the darkness is getting fixed. Personally, I love this cover. Uh, I usually get all my covers done by somebody on Fiverr. Case in point here, same thing. I wanted somebody who strictly does steampunk covers because if they do anything else, I don't know. The cover artist that I used for the short story Emporium, she didn't use steampunk, and steampunk is one of those genres somebody has to specifically do that genre. So I found this girl on Fiverr. I don't think she's ever done a book cover, but I was very patient and I was very, very understanding. She came up with that. Fun story, when this cover first came out, everything on the cover was gold. It looked like Midas lived in the town and everything he touched turned to gold. So I was like, I love the concept of this. I love what you created, but can you make it less gold looking? Because you can't really tell what's what. So that's what happened is that was the first fixer-upper that happened. It was no longer gold. So after it wasn't gold, it looked great. But then, of course, I ran into the other problems. But this isn't about problems. This is about promise, and this is about possibilities. And of Gears and Gaslight has been released today, and it is available right now on Kindle. And it's only $3.99, so you need something to read this weekend? Do yourself a favor and pick up of Gears and Gaslight. All right. So one thing I did on the other video that I did earlier this afternoon was I mentioned quotes. Now, if you've ever read a book by me, chances are you've come across some quotes in the beginning of the book. When I first started writing books, I usually went with one quote, sometimes two. But then coming across Dean Koontz books in my basement that my mom has, I noticed that who says you have to stop with one quote? Who says who says you have to stop with oh my god. Cut. Who says you have to stop with two quotes? You can put as many quotes in the book as you want. It's your book. It's your journey. So I put four in. And these are all you'll get the concept of each of these quotes. Here's the first one. Time is free, but it's priceless. You can't own it, but you can use it. You can't keep it, but you can spend it. Once you've lost it, you can never get it back. Harvey McKay. Do you see how it's fitting to my story? Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. George Orwell, 1984. The person who thought there could be any real conflict between science and religion must be either very young in science or ignorant of religion. Joseph Henry. Again, that one's for Gaslight Abbey. And then finally, the last quote, sorry. Religions die when they are proved to be true. Science is a record of dead religions. Oscar Wilde. So one of the people that watched this video earlier said she loved that quote, and I was like, why do you think it's in the book? I like Oscar Wilde to begin with, but that quote, when I read it, I was like, what if that's not fitting to the stories? So yeah, of Gears and Gaslight, it's a fun story. I think it's a very fun book. There's the Engineer's Watch. We got a Gears of Time there, and I'm actually gonna call this video at 6:45. Yeah, it might go a little bit longer, but no need to go to until 7. I don't believe anyone's watching. Um, so yeah, what inspired me to write the book after attending a steampunk festival, uh, becoming intrigued by the genre and curious by it, and then of course reading some steampunk books as well inspired me to write my very own. And I just told you what the book is about. And then, of course, I explained why the cover is so dark and why it's currently getting fixed. And then, of course, the quotes. So I'm trying to think of anything that I might have left out, but at the same time. So let's see if there's any interesting facts here. Oh, that's right. I do have a couple of interesting facts to tell you. I mentioned the Engineer's Watch it started off as a short story in an anthology. I actually have two steampunk stories that are in anthologies. I actually have, let me get the paper out here. I believe it's currently in here somewhere. All right, during the last video, I actually didn't know the name of the anthology that the Engineer's Watch is in, so now I can actually break out. The Engineer's Watch is in an anthology called Steam Powered Dream Engines. So, and I've written several anthologies, so I mean, I've written several stories that are in poems that are in anthologies. And the other story that is steampunk that I've written is actually not published, believe it or not. I wrote it like 3 years ago, but because COVID happened, the press that I sent it to had to stop working on the story because the woman that runs it, she needs more people, and the people kind of neglected the whole anthology. So I checked in like last year, so I'm kind of hoping they still go ahead on it because I actually wrote a steampunk horror story, which I freaking love. Um, the rule was you couldn't write about Jack the Ripper, so I was like, oh well, if everyone's doing it, right? And also, I was like, I didn't even know steampunk horror was a thing, and I did it. I thought about making of Gears and Gaslight steampunk horror, but I was like, yeah, I should make that my first book. Maybe if I ever write another steampunk book, it'll be steampunk horror. So the concept of that story, it's by the way, that story is called The Velvet Strangler, and I decided to have it take place after Jack the Ripper, and it's another murderer, and they're called the Velvet Strangler, and a journalist and two detectives. I believe they're in Whitechapel, or no, they're in a town over next to Whitechapel, and they work together to try to solve the crime of who the Velvet Strangler is and why they're out killing. So I'm hoping it actually gets released because that would actually help me in promoting this book. So yeah. Uh, yeah. Again, this is my first journey into the world of steampunk, and it certainly won't be my last. And I do hope that you enjoy reading the book. I do encourage you to go onto Amazon and buy yourself a copy for $3.99 for Kindle. And if you want a physical copy, I didn't mention this at 3 o'clock. So anybody that watches this in the playback, or you're watching it, I'm somehow not seeing that you're watching it because it doesn't notify me. Listen up. If you want a physical copy of Gears and Gaslight, DM me, message me wherever, however. If we've talked, you'll know. Message me, and I will let you know when the copies are available. I'm hoping this weekend. Don't quote me on that. I'm hoping, but just send me a DM, send me a message, and then I will give you a time frame of when I can expect the book to be available in paperback, and you'll be able to buy a copy. And the copies will be for $12.99, I think, most likely. All my paperbacks are $12.99. So yeah, like I said, I'm gonna end this video now because really not much else to say, and I pretty much covered everything in 15 minutes less than I thought I would. So for those that watch this on Instagram, thank you for watching. For those that watch it on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, once again, thank you as well. And yeah, of Gears and Gaslight, a steampunk action adventure novel, now available on Kindle for $3.99. Do yourself a favor if you're looking for a book to read. If you're looking for an adventure to go on this weekend, look no further than Of Gears and Gaslight on Amazon. Buy your copy today. Thank you for watching, and until next time.